off, you guys.
And move that sign
Time
so it
for
can
you
be
to
seen.
speak. Listen, Michelle, can you hear
Yes.
me? Okay, turn your sound off till it's time for you to speak.
1 second, you guys. Let me try to figure out the audio. Hold on. Oh, wait, I'm hearing it. 1 second.
What are you doing? Don't. It'll come up to the full screen.
Will it come up when you?
Oh, yeah, this is just the waiting.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you supposed to sign in?
No.
I'm in.
Oh, you did it? Can you
Yeah.
hear?
I did. I hear you now.
What did you do to,
It was
what did you do to
A
make it work?
very
Kim?
complicated thing.
So,
We're gonna-
okay.
Tell Kim so she can do the same thing.
Fortunately, our chair loves me anyways, but I might be being bad sometimes. Okay, I'll stop.
Right.
And what did you do to get the sound to come out?
So I went into settings.
Yeah.
And yeah, and when I was in settings, when I looked in audio, it had the microphone, but it did not have my MacBook speakers turned on. It was just my mic was on.
Okay.
I was using
Can you tell
the Zoom
tell-
audio device, huh?
tell Kim to do the same thing so she can get her speaker on?
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna take a picture of it for her.
Hi. Is my sound okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Fine. Very good. Thank you.
And thank you, Michelle, for coming to Florida and being here with us today.
Michelle's up in Alachua County at the DEC headquarters there.
Oh, it's the Gainesville.
That's right.
That did snow and protests all on the same day. So go Gainesville, go Alachua County.
Okay, I can hear you, but there's a little bit of a delay, I think.
I hear you now, Sam.
Hey, we're good.
Technology is a wonder.
Richard. Hearing an echo.
Oh, are Judy and Kim in the same room? Could that
But I have to
No.
go on.
Kim is in Broward at a
definitely
library.
not the same room?
Yep.
It could be nice to get one more person. If anyone wants to.
I'm going to turn the.
Okay, so I think there might be a little bit of a delay, so the slides might not line up exactly, but I can hear everybody now.
We can all hear each other and we're good. I don't see JJR and he's the only one I don't see here at this point. But that's okay. He can come in when he gets in here. So are we starting now, Kim? We're here? Well, I believe that we're all here and I want to welcome everybody. My name is Judy Freiberg. I am president of the Democratic Environmental Caucus of Florida. Thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today. Just a little housekeeping. Some of you will be able to join your chapter virtually after this part of the event is over, and we'll let you know how you can do that at the end of this program. So with us today are Florida Democratic Party Chair Nikki Fried and Michelle Deatrick, Chair of the DNC Council on Environmental and Climate Crisis. Shortly, they will share how environmental issues have helped Democrats win in Florida and nationally. But first, a little bit about today, who we are, our goals, and agenda for today. I know that all of us are scared and angry about what we are seeing happen in this country. At this moment, we are seeing ICE brutalize and kill Minneapolis residents, detain and bully American citizens and immigrants who are here legally, and arrest journalists for the crime of reporting what is happening to the American people. These tactics are designed to extort Minnesota governor into turning over Trump's government, the Minnesota state voter rolls. They know they must interfere with the 2026 elections or they will lose their control of the federal government. And here's what else we're seeing. We're seeing American citizens in Minneapolis fearing for their personal safety, but still standing up for their city, their residents, and our democracy. We see a Minnesota governor refusing to be extorted. We are seeing reporters covering demonstrations despite having become the target of violence and prosecution by this administration. Their courage has given all Americans courage, hope, and resolve. Our fight here in Florida is very much tied to the fight in Minnesota, tied to preserving democracy, and very tied to preserving a livable planet. It is the same fight. The special interests who control our state and national governments, who are behind these horrific tactics, are doing so because they now control our economic and environmental policy, and they are profiting from their business practices that are burning up the planet, polluting our waters, dumping agricultural and industrial pollution onto our lands, and paving over Florida. Thanks to the horrible campaign finance laws we have, they have been able to purchase our state and national government, and they're not going to give up ownership of it without a fight. We know the consequences of pollution, climate change, and environmental destruction are felt by everyone. We Floridians are experiencing the health effects from extreme heat and pollution, inflated utility costs, destructions from extreme storms, flooding, unaffordable homeowners insurance, upscale developments replacing natural areas, concrete jungles replacing beautiful beaches. To us, taking back Florida does not only mean taking back our government and our democracy, it also means taking back a healthy, sustainable, and beautiful Florida. To do that, you and I need to be like the citizens of Minneapolis and fight for it. For us Democrats in Florida, that means pivoting from activities that promote our organizations to activities that promote our candidates. Pivoting from engaging with one another to engaging with our voters and getting them to the polls on election day. Pivoting from educating one another on good policy and ensuring that our candidates will govern using good environmental policy. You and I are part of a volunteer base of Florida Democratic Party. I am told there is somewhere near 15,000 of us who are members and volunteers with our Democratic organizations, including our clubs and caucuses. It won't matter if Republicans raise so much more money than our candidates. Given our numbers, we are an unbeatable resource for our candidates in the 2026 elections, but only if we fight to take back Florida as one Florida Democratic campaign team. And that is what our webinar is about and why we've asked you to be with us today. This presentation is being viewed on YouTube. If you want to see some of the slides or any part of the presentation later, simply click on that YouTube link again. For those of you who are new to the Democratic Environmental Caucus of Florida, let me explain a little bit about caucuses. Our caucuses are issue-based here in Florida. Our issue, of course, is the environment. And caucuses exist under the umbrella of the Florida Democratic Party. Our caucus has chapters in 23 Florida counties, soon to be 24. Our state board is made up of each county chapter president, along with our elected officers and committee chairs. I'm president of our Collier County chapter, which is where I am talking to you from today, in addition to being president of the state DECF Board of Directors. The goal of our environmental caucus is to elect Democrats who understand and commit to implementing good environmental policy. Our goal in this presentation is to share our caucus approach to doing just that in 2026 and to get enough help from you, our fellow Democratic volunteers, to be able to get good candidates elected. So I'm thrilled first that we will hear from our chair of the DNC Council on Environmental and Climate Crisis, Michelle Deatrick, and our Florida Democratic Party chair, Nikki Fried. They will talk about how environmental issues and mobilizing our volunteers into actions have helped us win elections in Florida and nationally. And next, we'll give you some ideas about how our party and our candidates can message on the environmental issues that work. Then we will hear from Richard Grosso, environmental attorney and president of our Broward DEC chapter, followed by Jose Javier Rodriguez, also known as JJR, former state senator and current Democratic candidate for Florida Attorney General. They will talk about why electing people who understand and implement good policy is how we can address climate change, stop pollution, and environmental destruction, and why our elections are critical to being able to do that. Next, we'll explain our strategy and activities to implement those strategies. Pam Castellana is vice chair of the DEC engagement, and she will share how the FDP is making it easy for us to do the work. And now I want to introduce our first speaker, Michelle Deatrick. Michelle is the founder and national chair of the DNC Council on the Environmental and Climate Crisis. Michelle is a national environmental advocate, a labor leader, background state organizer, and former elected official. Michelle serves as vice president of her regional AFL-CIO Labor Federation, is on the national advisory boards of Jane Fonda Climate PAC and Climate Power. She is a former Peace Corps volunteer, lives on her family farm in Michigan. Michelle traveled here from Michigan. I think she thought she was escaping the cold weather. She is speaking from Gainesville in the Alachua County DEC chapter with that president and members of the supporters of that chapter. This weekend, she has a packed agenda helping promote our caucus, our DECF Environmental Justice Coalition, meeting with college Democrats and environmental leaders. Michelle is a friend and an environmental and political mentor. Michelle campaigned in several key elections all over US in 2025 and will share with us what issues were key in winning those elections. And I'm turning it over now to Michelle.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Deatrick, and I am so glad to be here in Florida with you today, cold or not. Still definitely warmer than Michigan, by the way. Heartfelt to Chair Fried and to President Freiberg for their leadership and the absolutely stellar work, leading and organizing for people, for planet, for winning democratic victories. And also, I just want to say a quick shout out to Bill Radunovich, who's here, leads the Alachua County Environmental Caucus, and to some of the folks who are here with me today, Billy and David and John and Bill, and there's a room full of people here. As Judy mentioned, I'm the founder and the chair of the DNC Council on the Environment and Climate Crisis. Our council is working with environmental leaders, rural organizers, Democratic Party organizations, and young Democrats throughout the country to organize, to educate, and to get out the vote. And I'm proud to say that the council, which is the youngest of the DNC councils, has done over 300 organizing events over the last 5 years, including almost 100 last year. And that our network of state and national Democratic environmental caucuses, with Florida chief among them, we are already over 25 caucuses across the country, and they work together. they network together, they support each other to elect Democrats, because we truly are stronger when we work together. Look, I've traveled all over the country. I was in Georgia to help us win statewide races for offices that Democrats haven't held for decades. I was in Tennessee to campaign for the special election in December, where we nearly erased a Trump plus 22 district and scared the heck out of Republicans with the size of the vote swing. I helped a Kent, Ohio school board candidate flip a rural red seat to blue. He ran in part on environmental issues. And I was in Florida for your special elections, had the privilege of meeting your incredible candidates, and witnessed the beautiful groundswell of enthusiasm and volunteerism. People who had never volunteered before, who were knocking doors and making calls, working alongside people who'd been doing the work for years. I learned from you then of the serious environmental challenges that are facing Florida: Superfund sites, overdevelopment, sea rise, extreme storms, and much more. And I came away impressed and inspired by you. I've traveled to college campuses across the country too, in red states and blue states, rural areas, communities on eroding coasts, communities breathing filthy air, and recovering from wildfires, to battleground states and states that are often forgotten about or ignored. And after all this, I came away with two conflicting emotions. One is fear and sadness for what is happening to this country of ours. Of course, this administration, as Judy so eloquently put it, they're not just trying to erase the progress of the last 4 years, as she described. They are looking to undo all the progress of the last 40 years, and in many ways, the progress of the last 170 years. Murdering innocent people in the streets, trampling our rights, gutting FEMA, which is so crucial in their work here in Florida, rolling back environmental protections that have stood for 50 years, setting our nation on a completely unsustainable path, denying basic science. But I also have hope. I have hope after seeing what we did in New Jersey, Virginia, and the Georgia races. I have hope after seeing what you're doing here in Florida. I have hope after seeing the Tennessee special election. And that hope comes from people, from we, the people from every single county in Tennessee who came together from across the state to work on one congressional district. There were people from every single county there. It was great. Knocking doors, making calls. From the people I met from other states who came there, Oregon, Illinois, Massachusetts, a team from Florida, thank you, Florida, came together, knocked red, purple, blue doors in an election in Georgia too, that is usually under the radar, Public Service Commission, and elected Democrats who won by a big margin in Georgia by campaigning on wind, solar, affordable energy, and against data centers. That hope comes from your organizing here in Florida, and I frequently hold up the work of the Florida Democratic Environmental Caucus as a stellar example of what needs to be done around the country in all our states. I talk with Chair Freiberg frequently. She advises me, tells me about the great things you're doing. Those ideas are percolating across the country. You're organizing a county upon county and is the foundation for the incredible work that we're going to be doing together this cycle. So I'm truly confident in two things. One, fighting for everything we hold dear is the right and necessary thing to do. And two, we the people will prevail. And I believe we can and we will win. And the way to do that is to organize and work together with other county environmental caucuses, with the terrific state party, because that's how we prevail and win. And it's how we also overcome the pundits, and some in our own party, unfortunately, who believe climate isn't a winning issue and should be abandoned. They are mistaken. And the results in Georgia and Tennessee and in Kent, Ohio school board show that. But as we head down, into this critical election year, that is what we at the council are going to be doing, is organizing, doubling down, supporting the strong work that you do, your state party chair does, your environmental caucus president. I'm so excited to work with all of you today and going forward in 2026. So I asked for the honor of helping to introduce your Florida Democratic Party Chair, Nikki Fried, because from where I sit as chair of the DNC Environment and Climate Crisis Council, Chair Fried has strengthened the Florida Democratic Party, building it up, its scope, its scale, bringing Florida Democrats together to work as a team. She's increasing our ability to win elections and has the vision and the expertise to see the big potential to win, and to win through campaigning in part through messaging and campaigning on environmental issues. And in Florida, with the challenges, as you know so well, with the challenges facing Democrats, her leadership is even more critical. And I'm here working in Florida because of her leadership and because of the leadership shown by the Democratic Environmental Caucus of Florida, your county chapters, President Freiberg. And I believe, with what I have seen here and in sister states, that expanding the environmental voting base is a key part of a winning strategy in Florida. And wins here are going to be a game changer for the whole country. As you know, Chair Fried served as Florida's 12th Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services from 2019 to 2023. When Nikki was elected in 2018, she became Florida's only statewide elected Democrat and the first woman ever elected to serve as commissioner. As Agricultural Commissioner, she championed the transition to clean energy and specifically pushed clean energy options to address climate change. Thank you. And key lower electric bills for Floridians. So thank you. Let's do this. And I'm going to pass it back to President Freiberg.
Thank you very much. And I want to outline some of the other accomplishment that Chair Fried did when she was agricultural commissioner, excuse me. She called on state and federal regulators to deny an oil drilling permit in the Big Cypress watershed that would threaten Southwest Florida's water supply. Following that call, the DEP was forced to deny the permit. She launched her Clean Water Initiative, which for the first time ever aimed to collect records of nutrients applied on farms and prioritized in-person verification, farm site visits, instead of relying on voluntary self-reporting, as well as collaboration with farmers on corrective action, referring to non-compliance for enforcement. She referred to DEP more than 6,000 farms for skirting environmental practices. She updated agricultural best management practices. She prioritized putting millions in cost share dollars towards more effective environmentally impactful projects. She grilled the former DEP secretary about the disaster at Piney Point, signing dozens of documented issues since 2019 alone. On the DeSantis cabinet, Nikki was the only vote against giving TECO new fossil fuel power plant capacity and expanding the Dolphin Expressway through the Everglades. She called for banning all oil drilling within Florida, plans to deep well inject toxic phosphate mining waste into our aquifers, called out Mosaic's attempt to expand their new Wales phosphogypsum plant in Polk County and open a new phosphate mine in DeSoto County. Launched the first ever statewide study of energy inequality, working to help Black and Hispanic families burdened with higher utility bills than other Floridians. There's a list longer, but there's a reason why I'm saying this. Chair Fried was an environmentalist as a commissioner and did a lot in the face of being the only elected Democrat in the state office and outnumbered. It is very important that we have a chair who is an environmentalist and is pushing environmental policy, which is one of the reasons she spent time helping me with this webinar. But you need a governor, you need an attorney general, and state agencies willing to implement what she was trying to do. So now what I want to do is hear from our Florida Democratic Party chair, how environmental issues can restore the Democratic Big Tent so that we can take back Florida.
Well, first of all, Judy, thank you so much for having me on today. And thank you, Michelle, for all the work that you do across the entire country, standing up for our environment. Judy reading off that list really kind of highlights how elections have consequences and why they matter more than ever before. So again, I'm Nikki Freed, chair of the Florida Democratic Party, and it truly is an honor to be with you today. But before I do get started, I do want to take a moment to again honor the leaders and the volunteers like Judy across our entire state. You built our movement from the ground up. You've knocked on doors, you answered calls, you've hosted town halls, you recruited hundreds of new leaders to step up. You are the backbone of this fight, and the Florida Democratic Party is proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with each of you, especially this year. 2026 is here. It's midterm year, and we know what that means. This is our chance to stand up to corruption, to stand for working families, and to fight for Florida that we all can afford. And let me tell you, we actually have a chance this year to flip the script and to win races up and down the ballot. Last year, we saw record turnout in an off-year election. The momentum wasn't just an accident. We met the moment with urgency and hard work. In 2025, we launched the earliest year-round organizing program in our party's history. Through our pendulum program, we've contacted over 3 million voters, trained 7,300 volunteers, and recruited over 800 different Democrats to run for office. We are building power now, because progress waits for no one. And we saw our hard work pay off by winning 17 seats last year, flipping 17 seats, everything from ending the year in the City of Miami race, where Eileen Higgins, for the first time in 30 years, flipped the City of Miami, electing the first female ever to actually been elected in that position and to hold that office in 126 years. We saw Rashawn Young in Orange County become the first Black Gen Z elected member to the state legislature. Marlene Shaw flipped a seat in Gulfport City Council, unseating Republican incumbent for 12 years. We saw major swings to the left, overperforming the national average by 5 points. The wave, my friends, is also coming here to the state of Florida. And the truth is this. The Democratic Party has always delivered results. We fought for Social Security and to make sure that our seniors could live with dignity. We fought for the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, so everyone has a voice. We fought for the GI bills and Medicare, so veterans and families have the opportunity and care. We fought for the Affordable Care Act, so our families don't have to go bankrupt when they get sick. We've passed the Clean Water and Air Acts, Endangered Species Act. This is our brand. Democrats have always been moving the ball forward on the issues that impact everyday Americans. Fighting for working people is who we are. This year, we have a chance to elect leaders at the federal, state, and local levels who will keep finally taking the affordability and environmental crisis head on. You have a choice. Keep voting for politicians more interested in wars and special interest giveaways, or vote for leaders ready to fight the cost of living and environmental crisis, squeezing families in every corner of our state. Nowhere in the United States are the impacts of climate crisis more apparent than here in our state. Whether it is the persistent daytime flooding and increased king tides in South Florida, blue-green algae blooms fouling our waterways in Central Florida, to red tides not only on the East Coast but on the West Coast, or stronger and more frequent hurricanes devastating communities from the Panhandle all the way to the Keys. No stretch of land is immune to the negative effects of a changing climate that is putting our state's environmental and economic futures at risk. I don't know about you, but I am tired. I am tired of the chaos, tired of politicians who will do anything to stay in power while doing the bare minimum for the people that they represent. Year after year, the affordability and environmental crisis has been met with inaction and indifference by our Republican leaders. But we know environmental issues are winning issues for Floridians. Do you know the most recent poll indicates that 2 out of 3 Floridians, that includes our Republican counterparts, believe the extreme heat and hurricanes are a result of climate change? And nearly 50% believe that our lawmakers aren't doing enough to combat climate change and make our state more resilient. 90% of Florida Republicans agree that the climate is changing and that we need changes. We don't have to convince people who are feeling the impacts of climate change to believe it's real. Floridians are living it every single day and are searching for solutions-oriented leaders who will bring about real change. What I think is really important to highlight here is the affordability and the environmental crises are extremely linked together. As the impacts of climate change become more and more evident and persistent, it will be everyday Floridians that bear the costs unless we get serious about candidates who care about both of these issues. We all know the cost of property insurance in Florida is out of control. As storms become stronger and recovery becomes more expensive, we need real solutions and fighters, not more excuses from right-wing politicians paid off by some corporate polluters and insurance companies who jack up our rates and fail to deliver on their promises. We are feeling the cost of hotter summers and stronger hurricanes, and most of us are probably indoors today because it doesn't just go hotter, but also goes a lot colder, and it's impacting our state through skyrocketing utility rates. I don't know about you, but every year I get more sick and sicker shocked about the cost of our utility bills. As temperatures rise and it gets more expensive to recover from storms, corporate utilities are racking in record profits. Will they pass off the costs to us? We work hard and we need fighters who will demand common sense regulation that will give us the fair rates that we deserve. Banning offshore drilling off the coast in our state has been a bipartisan priority for years, which is why almost every 70% of Floridians voted for the constitutional amendment to ban it in 2018. 70%, as most of you know, it is a lot for Floridians to come together with over 70% of support for an issue. But that's what happened in 2018. Recent actions by the Trump administration would roll back restrictions put in place by former President Joe Biden during his last days in office that would have provided federal protections in the waters of our Florida coasts, as we saw during the Deepwater Horizon spill in 2010. Florida's fragile coastal ecosystems are at risk from oil drilling. Offshore drilling is dirty and dangerous and inconsistent with clean, tourist-friendly beaches we value in the Sunshine State are central to Florida's healthy environment, economy, and way of life. Look, we have seen time after time after time, local governments putting restrictions in, whether it's banning plastics or in Key West banning the large cruise lines because it was destroying the environment and our very precious coastal areas and sea life inside by the Keys. We saw what happened when Ron DeSantis's plan to take our state parks to make pickleball courts, that the people of this state rallied around to make sure that that didn't happen. And as most of you know, when I ran in 2018, I ran on 3 W's. Yes, weed, weapons, and the third being water. The people of our state crossed over partisan politics to vote for me in that 2018 election because they knew that I was going to be a champion for our environment. So many of our coastal communities are so reliant on the economy of our fishing industry, our tourist industry, the small restaurants that are on our coastal communities, the mom and pop hotels that line our coastal areas, the culture of our communities. This is why it is so important to make sure that we are consistent on our environmental policies, standing up for the issues, and reminding the people of our state that elections matter. Who is in office, whether it's our Commissioner of Agriculture, it is our governor, it is our Attorney General, it is our state legislators, it is our local governments. Each one of them play a vital role in protecting our environment and making sure that the right people are in place to say no to the big polluters, to say no to the mosaics out there that want to bribe elected officials to turn a blind eye to the things that are happening on the ground. So from Pensacola to Key West, generations of Floridians have come together over our shared love for our beautiful beaches, our coastlines, and wildlife that are vital to our way of life and provide countless economic opportunities to hardworking families trying to live their version of the American dream. We can continue to fight for better policies and better policymakers to make those dreams into reality. But it's going to take fight from each and every one of us to make sure that as we go forward, that we are doing this together. So what do we need from each and every one of you? not only participating in the environmental caucus, but being part of the ground team that we are building. So if you, doesn't have to be complicated, host a postcard party. If you like gathering with your friends, join a canvas, whether it is for our special elections, which we have, I feels like every other week here in the state of Florida right now. And so if you love people and getting to know more people, join one of those canvases. Make a donation if you want to invest in our infrastructure, whether it is the environmental caucus, your local DEC, and of course, I will always make a pitch to the state party. Volunteer for phone bank from home. Use your social media platforms to help spread the word and to make sure that you're doing engagement on platforms. Take on a leadership role, whether again at the local DEC or the environmental caucus. If you don't have an environmental caucus at your DEC, start one. We can help. We are here for you to make sure that your voices are front and center throughout the entire state. Or simply talk to your loved ones and the people around you and explain to them why things like this matter. The ask is just do something. Floridians are struggling. Temperatures are rising, and this week falling. Storms are getting stronger. Housing costs are soaring. Grocery bills keep climbing. Property insurance is out of control. Families are being priced out of Florida and making Florida their home. And while Democrats are fighting for solutions, Republicans are playing politics, giving tax breaks to the wealthy corporations, defunding our public schools, and ignoring the people who need them the most. Let's be crystal clear about what Floridians can't afford. We can't afford environmental policies that exacerbate climate change and keep us less safe from future threats. We can't afford for insurance companies and corporate utilities to keep racking in profits while driving up costs and denying claims. We can't afford reckless wars with families where families cannot afford rent. We can't afford healthcare being used as a political weapon while people are choosing between medicine and groceries. We can't afford culture wars while insurance companies are crushing working families. We can't afford leaders who protect special interests instead of protecting people. So what do? We fight, we organize, and then we vote. We build a Florida where families can afford to live, work, and to dream. A Florida where your paycheck goes farther, your healthcare is secure, our environmental policies are in place, and our kids grew up with opportunity, not obstacles. So let's keep building power in every neighborhood, every town, every city, and every county. Look what Texas did last night, flipping a seat by 30 points. This isn't just a blue wave. This is an American wave. Americans are coming together and saying enough with the chaos, enough with the corruption, and we, the people, are going to do this together moving forward. So here in Florida, let's keep pushing that pendulum forward. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Judy. And thank you to all of our incredible leaders and volunteers who are joining us across our state and potentially across the nation who are here today. And I will turn it back over to you, Judy.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Fried. We know instinctively that when special interests give donations to candidates, they're rewarded when the candidates get elected. Legislators, governors, state officials reward their donors by allowing them to profit from the practices causing pollution, climate change, and the destruction of our natural areas. The consequences of bad environmental policy for Floridians are becoming catastrophic. It no longer works now for Republicans to distract voters from the prospect of losing their homes to devastating hurricanes with rhetoric blaming immigrants or trans people. It won't work to tell people they're really not paying higher utility bills or not suffering from the health effects of pollution. And that is where good messaging comes in. Environmental issues are key in elections in Florida. Here in Naples, our Naples City Council elections are this Tuesday. Every single major city council issue in this election are environmental. Flooding due to sea level rise, devastating damage from hurricane, climate change, pollution from airport expansion, disappearing green space from overdevelopment. Those are the four issues that people that we polled that came to our candidate forum selected as their top issues. We covered those issues in our environmental candidate forum, which helped our candidates then improve how they engage with voters on environmental issues. When voters hear words like climate change or the environment, they don't necessarily check the box in some poll, CNN poll, on their priority issues. And it's not because it's not their priority issue. It's because those words don't match how the problem shows up in their lives. So here's some ideas about how to frame the issues for voters from our DECF communications team, from the FDP, from communications experts, and from what we've learned in local and state campaigns and our own voter engagement. So there are certain considerations that we're suggest using when you crafting your message. Don't take the bait. The more you explain why it's immoral to target trans people or immigrants, the more culture wars becomes the issue, as opposed to fighting pollution. Some voters want to hear you trash talk Trump. Others feel themselves to be victims of the Democratic promises that they feel have not been delivered. They're giving us a second look now that Trump has let them down. They don't want to hear us blaming everything on Trump. They want to hear what we're going to do. Us Democrats and environmentalists, we want to tend to explain everything in great detail or give long speeches about democracy. People check out, and sometimes they feel talked down to. Speak plainly. Don't use buzzwords like kitchen table issues. It doesn't really tell a voter that you're going to fight for lowering their utility bills. The insurance, so the next issue, next slide, please. The insurance lobby, we're talking about, let's see, I'm sorry. So the next issue is unaffordability. That's a problem here. And the problem comes from homeowners insurance, affordable housing, and utility bills. The insurance lobby blames consumers, lawyers, and roofers for escalating premiums. It makes no sense. Increased climate disasters are making homeowners insurance too costly. Low-income communities, let's see. And for utility bills, I'm sorry, for affordable housing is what I do want to talk about. As Chair Fried said, this is an environmental justice issue, and we're going to talk more on our environmental coalition soon. But what we want you to know is that low-income communities have no political strength to get government to protect them from climate disasters and pollution, and that's worsening Florida's lack of affordable housing. Our candidates need to listen to people that live in these communities and then commit to enacting policies when they get elected that will help them. The next issue is utility bills. And I have a news flash, and Chair Fried already covered it. Clean energy is cheaper. Removing utility companies from controlling energy sources means less expensive rates. And any candidate that tries to avoid discussing environmental issues because they think voters don't care have not paid attention to how Floridians in all parties, all races, all classes, all religions have been mobilizing every day to fight the environmental destruction in Florida. From protecting our state park to vigils at the detention center in the Everglades. And then the next issue, of course, is overdevelopment. Real estate interests that control Tallahassee, they want to be the ones to make decisions on what developments can be built where you live, how they are built, and where they're built. They do not want local government to make those decisions. Do not vote for state legislator who supports what we call preemption bills, preempting the ability of local governments to make decisions to control overdevelopment. And then we talk about flooding. While we are upgrading aging infrastructure to accommodate increased flooding from sea level rise, let's promote policy that fights sea level rise. And then next is how the governor, how the attorney general will impact on these policies, and how we should push our Democratic candidates to understand the issues and do something about it when they're elected. You know, the governor appoints people to all of the agencies that have emergency, and he has emergency powers that affect the availability of homeowners insurance, affect utility rates, affect pollution, and affect the detention center in the Everglades. The Attorney General has the authority to decide whether to fight polluters and hold them accountable, or whether to allow them to continue and instead use their authority to engage in culture wars. So now what I want to do is turn to our next issues, which is being sure that we are electing understanding how we're going to, why it's so important to elect good people. The people that are going to talk about that are Richard Grosso, who's an environmental attorney and president of our Broward chapter, and Jose Javier Rodriguez, candidate for Attorney General. It's not enough to help our candidates with good messaging that relates to what voters are experiencing. It is very telling that nationally, fully 45% of American voters do not identify with either party. Too many Americans don't live anything close to economically secure lives, and too many Floridians are suffering the consequences of climate change with no effective policies to address it. They feel these conditions have worsened under the administrations of both parties. Our elected leaders at all levels must understand and commit to enacting policy and programs that will create the kind of change that voters are looking for. Voters really do want their leaders to end the constant development and destruction of natural areas, control flooding, and clean up pollution. So now we're going to hear, and I need to know, did JJR make it to this event?
I'm on. Can you all hear me?
Oh, yes. Okay, JJR, thank you. I'm so glad you're
Yeah.
here.
Hello.
I'd like to introduce JJR to this event. He is the current candidate for Attorney General, and was JJR, why don't you go ahead and you talk about, I didn't know if you had made it, so thank you so much, and
Yes.
I'm introducing you now.
Great. Well, I'm honored to be on. Hello. I think we last saw each other in December. Was honored to be on with you. Look forward as I continue to make my way around the state to hopefully connect with you all in person. Doing it virtual is a little hard sometimes because it's hard to kind of gauge reactions and interaction. But Jose Javier Rodriguez, your candidate for Florida Attorney General in November. Hello to all of you, to the DECF, to the chapters, to all the other clubs and caucuses represented. I'll just give you an introduction I'll introduce myself. I'll talk about the campaign briefly, and then hopefully we can have a discussion. As I said, Jose Javier Rodriguez. I'm based in Miami with my family. I'm a 20-year litigator. My entire legal career has enabled me to live my values of, frankly, standing up for the little guy. And I served in the State House and the State Senate. I also served in the Biden administration. I led an $11 billion agency for the president at Department of Labor. In the legislature, as well as from our perch at the Department of Labor, have a very strong environmental record. My passion that I brought to the environmental justice work, to climate action, is frankly the fervor of a convert. I'm Catholic. A lot of the reason why public service is important to me is because of the social gospel. But I mention that because oftentimes converts are the strongest defenders of the faith, and I'll tell you that my conversion to being very much a champion on climate and on climate action was because I saw how little was being done in Tallahassee and how much was needed. So I'm running for Florida Attorney General to return the Attorney General's office to the people. We have not had a real Attorney General who does the job in decades. I'm talking going all the way back to Bob Shevin, Bob Butterworth, and I was honored to roll out General Butterworth's endorsement, which is very, very meaningful to me because you have to go back that far to find an Attorney General who really fully did the job, which is to be the people's lawyer. It's not the personal lawyer of the governor. It is an advocate for the people of Florida, and that's what I will be. My priorities are going to be to restore a focus on tackling crime, costs, and corruption. And I'll tell you about how that interfaces with environmental work. State attorneys general across the country are often my heroes when it comes to a lot of this work. But enforcing state and federal law, environmental justice is in the front lines of what many state attorneys general do. State of Florida here, for example, I think when we were last on, we talked a little bit about cane burning. We talked about a lot of other things. I have a track record of taking on the most powerful interests in the state. If you all remember the ghost candidate scandal in 2020, FPL funded an operation by Republican operatives to run a shill candidate, the same last name I did in my reelection to state Senate. I lost by 32 votes out of 250,000 votes cast. The CEO of FPL greenlit that operation by saying, make his life hell. And we've leaned into that in our campaign because I talk about giving them hell right back in Tallahassee, these corrupt interests that pollute our children with opioids, but also polluting our waterways and really are responsible for so much of the environmental degradation and the environmental health impacts that our communities are impacting. So when it comes to enforcing polluter pays, you got me there. Absolutely. When it comes to holding utilities accountable, 100%, that's been my track record. And it's a badge of honor that they have come at me so hard over my career. And one very big thing that I talk about on the campaign trail is restoring the power of local government. For those of you who follow legislation in Tallahassee and a lot of the action out of the governor's mansion and out of the legislature, a lot of times when they're trying to take power away from local governments, it's because local governments are doing the right thing on the environment. I mean, we have a couple examples in Central Florida, even recently, where the attorney general's, basically doing legal opinions for developers to try to open up rural and environmental lands for development. Legislature does the same thing. If there is a local jurisdiction trying to protect the environment, trying to protect people by implementing heat standards, well, the legislature says, no, you can't do that. As Attorney General, with your help, elected in 2026, that will change. You'll have an Attorney General, not just as the chief legal officer of the state, but also someone providing oversight to state agencies, saying, no, we can do this. You have the power to do it. So the power of the office to free up local governments to do the right thing is also a very important role that the Attorney General has. The current Attorney General, if I could just take maybe a minute to rattle off just a few of the horrendous things that he is doing. My opponent, James Uthmeyer, is currently investigating environmental organizations. If you could wrap your head around that, what is it we ought to be doing for the people of Florida? That's what he's choosing to do. He's challenging environmental regulations. Probably doesn't surprise you given his party affiliation. He is the architect and the cheerleader behind Alligator Alcatraz and projects like it. When I've been up at the Public Service Commission, trying to draw attention and hold utilities and our regulators to account. Not only is our Attorney General completely missing in action of the Public Service Commission, he is using the power of the Attorney General's office to actually target solar. I mean, of all things, it's really hard to believe, and promoting nuclear and other things like that. So, we were on before. I would be honored to ask for your support and endorsement as the DECF. When I go around the state and I ask folks for help, of course, an endorsement helps, a pledge to volunteer and help us with those resources. We are ramping up, and in the spring, summer, we hope to have the capacity, frankly, to take advantage of a lot of the volunteer energy that's coming up. And of course, resources, to the extent that there are financial resources, that goes a long way for us to help build our operation. But anyway, so that's my pitch. That's my ask. Very much appreciate you. We're in this fight together, and we're going to return the Attorney General's office to the people, and finally have an advocate in the Attorney General's office that fight for our people, including our environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I also want to mention to you, JJR, that when you have visited our caucuses, I get glowing reports and texts saying, "Get this guy on." So it's working. You're getting the base to excited about your candidacy. And now I want to introduce Richard Grosso. Richard is president of the Richard Grosso Law Firm in Plantation, Florida. He's a widely recognized lawyer and environmental advocate with 38 years of experience as a public interest litigator, appellate lawyer, advocate, and counselor in the areas of federal and Florida environmental land use, constitutional, property rights, and related government and administrative law. Richard is involved in several important environmental lawsuits at present, litigating issues key for environmental voters. Richard is involved in several important lawsuits at present. Richard is also president of the Broward chapter of our Democratic Environmental Caucus and is speaking to you from a gathering of environmentalists in Broward County. So, Richard, the floor is yours.
Hi, thanks. And coming at you from Broward County, where JJR, when you mentioned enforcing polluter pays, you got a big rousing standing ovation here. So thank you for that. I decided after almost 40 years of trying to enforce land use and environmental laws that we need to elect our way out of our environmental crises and into environmental sustainability. We're not going to litigate our way to that. Environmental laws are written by the legislature. They are enforced or not by the governor and members of the cabinet, including the Attorney General. And so the focus needs to be on making sure we elect the right people who are going to write the laws we need and enforce them as zealously as we need them to be enforced. The legislature decides whether local governments can zone or comp plan for land in a certain way or not. The legislature decides how hard or easy it should be to get wetlands permits or to do development that impacts rural lands or wildlife areas. The legislature decides how much money we're putting to environmental enforcement or not. Legislature decides how much money we're putting into our land acquisition programs, which are immensely popular to buy environmentally sensitive lands. The governor determines who sits on the Public Service Commission, which decides your utility rates and how we're getting our electricity. The governor decides and appoints the Secretary of the Department of Environmental Protection, the Secretary of the Department of Commerce, which enforces our state planning laws, the governing boards of our 5 water management districts that determine our water use and wetland outcomes. Appoints the Secretary of the Department of Transportation, whose roads in the wrong place are often really fatal for our endangered species in Florida, running them through major wildlife areas and natural areas. The governor appoints the Florida Supreme Court justices and all appellate judges, who are the ones that environmental lawyers are trying to enforce environmental laws, are then in front of when it comes to these precedent-setting major decisions that these courts make. Governor fills county commission vacancies when a commissioner leaves office. And of course, county commissions, even with the preemptions that the legislature has put upon them, still have an enormous role in shaping the future of our sensitive lands and rural areas. So who we elect to those roles is the dominant determinator of what our future is going to be in the face of environmental degradation and climate change. The thing that to me tells us we have a major opportunity right now is that pollution and overdevelopment have now widespread outrage. People are outraged. They are fed up with overdevelopment in Florida and with pollution of our state waters. I represent clients to enforce environmental and land use laws. I represent very conservative Republicans, non-party affiliates, and Democrats. The type of clients that I work with, who are trying to improve our environmental protection, protect rural lands, protect sensitive lands, stop pollution, they run the gamut. This is a popular issue. I joined our caucus. I became president of our chapter because I believe Democrats need to really distinguish ourselves in the eyes of the population of Florida, the voting population of Florida, as the party that will prioritize the environment and the human health and the quality of life and the economic benefits that come from that. We need to elevate the role that the environment plays in the minds of our candidates and those to whom we elect. It is our job as we do our work, and now we're fixing to move to our own discussions and our own chapters, to make sure that people who are looking for our support understand the environmental issues, the land use issues in their region. We need to talk about flooding in Fort Lauderdale, Ocklawaha restoration up in the northeast part of the state. Talk about the environmental and land use issues that are area specific, county specific, region specific, and your part of the state. Focus on those and make sure the candidates running for office in your counties demonstrate an understanding, or at least a willingness to prioritize and understand those issues. I think that's the key to success. I think we can appeal to Republican voters and non-affiliated voters by making sure we elevate the environment. I think that's all of our jobs in all of our caucuses. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak. Judy, thank you. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Richard. And I'm going to end all our pain a little bit sooner because we're going so long. And I know some people, at least here in this room, are hungry. But what I want to do now is talk about the DECF, our strategy. And our strategy is basically to get ourselves working on elections, get a ground game going for our candidates, support our candidates. And at the same time, we have another strategy that we have that we can get our candidates to understand and commit to good policy if they get elected. And that's our endorsement procedures. Our caucuses, unlike other Democratic organizations here, are allowed to endorse candidates in a primary. And what that does is it gives us an opportunity to say to candidates, if you understand the policy that we support as a caucus, we will endorse you, as long as you can show us that you will commit to implementing it. And so there are many ways that we create that activity and create that endorsement. We need help with that. The other thing that we need help with is developing statewide webinars like this one on particular topics so that we can provide resources, including webinars like this, so candidates can learn about how policies do affect our environment. We can develop a way to communicate now to state legislative candidates, to incumbents, that how they vote on legislation now that's coming up will affect whether we're going to endorse them. We need help with that. Who in this webinar knows how to craft the types of messages that we want to send to candidates, knows how to craft press releases? We need you. We want to put on candidate town halls and forums in the summer so that we can help candidates understand our issues and let them debate who's going to be best to legislate on those issues. And we want to provide campaign support and activities for our endorsed candidates. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how we've done this in an upcoming Naples City Council election that is actually this Tuesday. That election is critical if our council is going to retain candidates who are going to fight to keep local control, protect a local environmental justice community with resiliency resources, and fight overdevelopment and pollution. We worked cooperatively with our state DECF data team that we just created, our state data council, the Florida Democratic Party, our local DECs and clubs. We were able to conduct an email campaign, put on an environmental candidate forum, phone bank, and soon we're going to hear about how we can conduct a statewide phone bank, get out the vote effort. I want to thank Kim Heisey in Broward, Marilyn Holleran in Pasco, Liz Karshner-Sloan in Martin, Laura Hogarty here in Collier, Chair of our Collier County DEC, Jane Schletwick, who's here right now, Vice Chair of our Collier DEC, Rick Newton, who's also here, and Chair of our Voter Registration Committee, Katie McNutt. These are all people that worked together in order to help on this election. And now we're going to add our next presenter to help us even more, who's going to talk about how the FDP is going to make it easier for all of us to do this kind of work. Pam Castellana is Vice Chair of the DEC Engagement, and we'll talk about the kinds of activities that are effective in getting out the Democratic vote, how the FDP is making it easier for our volunteers to do that. Pam has been an active leader in the Democratic Party, organizing since 2017, served as chair of the Brevard County Democratic Executive Committee from 2020 to 24. Under her leadership, Brevard Democrats achieved historic levels of voter engagement and turnout, despite the county's deep red political landscape. And now I do want to introduce you to Pam. Pam, take it away.
Thank you, Judy. Hi, everybody. And thank you, Judy, for inviting me to participate in today's webinar, if you will. It's been an honor to see these speakers with whom I'm sharing this space. And I'm really just here to talk about how we turn out those voters. And the reality is that when we can fight these fights forever, or we can get people elected that will make fighting the fights less necessary. And that just seems to me to be the easiest, the most direct route. So that's always where I put my focus and my energy, is to make sure that we're electing candidates. And then, as Judy said, holding them accountable. And so what we're doing statewide to win elections, what wasn't in that whole bio thing, in Brevard County, we elected 43 Democrats between 2020 and 2024. And if you know anything about Brevard County, it's where the sheriff said, if you throw a rock at us, we're going to kill you, graveyard, dead, 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 because one dead isn't enough. Randy Fine lives in my county. Mom Soliby was born in my county. And we have 43 Democrats elected because we focus on turning out Democratic voters. More than anything else, that's the DEC's responsibility, right? The DEC's job is to turn out the voters. So it's really, really simple what we're doing right now statewide. What we found after 2024, we looked statewide at all of our counties, and 90 Democrats that had a mail ballot, 98% of them voted. do it again. 98% of the Democrats with a mail ballot in each county, this isn't unique to any county's work, 98% of the Democrats that had a mail ballot voted in 2024. And 50% of the Democrats that did not have a mail ballot voted in 2024. So it seems like the most, thank you, it seems like the most direct thing to increase turnout is to get mail ballots in the hands of all of our voters. That's a 48% difference between Democrats who voted and Democrats who didn't. And we know that that's not an anomaly, that will continue to happen. Republicans also know that, which is why they want to make it harder, right, to get mail ballots. So statewide, our focus has been getting mail ballots, not just in the hands of voters that have used them before, but into the hands of people that never used them, because that's how we expand. All the Democrats that voted in 2024 weren't enough for us to win in some really critical spaces. We are hearing today the drama that comes from electing Republicans to our state offices. So we have to increase that number. And that's the simplest thing we can do, is just get mail ballots in the hands of all of our voters. Our county had 84% turnout in 2024. We had mail ballots in the hands of about 83% of our Democratic voters. And that's a lot. That's a really high number, but we've been working on this year round for the last 5 years. So my role with the state party, thank you, Chair Freed, for trusting that this work is the most important thing for us to do, is to train all of our counties on how to do that direct voter contact. And there's a whole lot to it in that year-round conversations. And hopefully you'll become a part in your local county of whatever they're doing. Well, they will be doing this. It's really simple. People are sometimes holding back in those door-to-door conversations, and I get it. I'm the girl that quit Girl Scouts to avoid selling cookies. The idea of being at somebody's door, like, just used to create terror in my heart. But you know what creates more terror in my heart? Is not getting Democrats elected, right? I've lived in Florida since 1969, and it's awful. So we have to do, it's uncomfortable. Knocking on the doors isn't comfortable, but it sure beats knocking on the doors under Republican leadership. And for us to have something we've never had before, we have to do something we've never done before. So we made it really, really, really simple. You don't have to have all the answers when you're talking to a voter at the door. You don't, or on the phone. It's really just informing voters, and this year more than anything, that there's an election. Our turnout statewide in 2022, which is a comparable year to this year, Democratic voters was up right about 50%. The Republicans turnout was 60-something%. So not only do they have a voter advantage, but we're handing them the elections when we're not turning out our voters. So what we're doing statewide is we're going door to door with our voters with a mail ballot request form. And it's just a real simple thing. The first ask is, how likely are you to support Democrats generally? And when we're using the tools that FDP has provided, that the DNC has provided to FDP, and that FDP has provided to our counties and to our caucuses, and by that I mean minivan and van. Van is where we create our tools, and minivan is where we have the conversations. When we're using those tools and we ask that question first, if somebody says, no, I'm not going to support a Democrat, when we mark that answer in the tool that we're using, that helps us year in and year out. Every year, we now know that that person will never consider a Democrat or might consider a Democrat. I'd rather get an honest no than a dishonest yes. So that question is really critical. You now know what you have to build on in the future. So that's for step one. And using the tools that the FDP has provided. You don't need to pull voter lists from the supervisor of elections. That does not help us build anything beyond a cycle. And I don't know about you, but we're seeing right now, I was the average voter. I was pretty much unengaged. I would vote when I knew there was an election, and I'm a highly educated person. And yet I still didn't always vote because I didn't always know there was an election. And when we were thinking that as Democrats, that democracy was safe, Republicans were patiently taking it away from us. We can no longer afford to take our feet off the gas. So that's an important thing to build through a cycle, not just to a cycle. And then the next part of that conversation, when we're doing the mail ballots at the doors, is just simply, hey, if you have a mail ballot, it increases your power of your vote by 48%. Here's your slip, fill it out, and we're getting mail ballots in their hands. If somebody were to ask a question that we don't have an answer to, the answer would simply be, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. Like, I have learned more in this webinar today than I've ever known about the environment. But I would be able to say to somebody, I'm not really sure about your particular question about the overdevelopment in our community, but I'm going to find out and get back to you. It's okay to not know all the answers. You're environmentally focused. You may not have all the answers for the other things. And we're talking about culture wars. You know how to win culture wars? You elect Democrats who won't fight them. And they will simply provide democracy for all of us so we don't have to fight them. Now, we have created a phone bank for Collier County. Collier County has an election. Their Naples City Council has an election this Tuesday, the day after tomorrow. And in our rarefied spaces, we think everybody knows all of this. And I promise you they don't. Yesterday, I was with some young women in a non-Democrat event, and I was talking about the elections this fall. And they live in Orange County, which is a very Democratic county. And they did not know there was an election this fall. And they're Democrats. So we have to notify our voters. And right now there are about 2,700 voters in Naples that we're going to be contacting using a phone bank that we've created. And I'll share the link in the chat, and I'll send it to Chair Freeberg so she can send it out. And all it is, calling every Democratic voter in the city of Naples. First question is, are you likely to support Democrats? Or how likely are you to support Democrats? And you're putting their answer. We're going to be using, when you use this link, it's going to connect you to our phone bank in Van, our virtual phone bank. You click on that, you answer that question, that helps us forever. Regardless of what their answer is, the next thing is going to be great. Do you know we have an election this Tuesday? And that's like in bold. I'm just really informing our voters about the election and who our candidate is. Yes, I did put that in there. And she's Sally and all of her strengths on the environment. Encouraging them and all the information you're going to need, where they can drop their mail ballots. All 3 locations that they can use to drop their mail ballots are defined in the phone bank in the script. Their local polling location will show up next to their name because we built the phone bank to do that as well. The dates and the hours of the election day. There is no early voting in this special election or this election. The dates and the hours of voting are on the script as well. There will be nothing you need to know. Super simple. And because it's a virtual phone bank, you can do it from anywhere in the state, any time of day, anywhere in the country. Like anybody else that's watching this from freezing Minnesota, want to get some warmth in, help us win elections. So we are doing that phone bank. You can do it while you're sitting in line at the school drop-off. You can make 3 phone calls. It's just really, really simple, really direct. It doesn't matter where you are, and you don't need to have a solid block of time to get it done. So I'm going to put the link to the phone bank in the chat. And if anybody has any questions, you can put them in our chat. I see you're asking some questions about how to get good candidates. That's another conversation for another day. And even if you get good candidates, the next step is training those candidates. Helping when you hear somebody talking about the environment in a way that makes sense to you, just say to them, have you ever thought about running for office? It can be that simple. And it doesn't have to be a statewide office. These city offices matter. Not only because that person will fight off those special interests, but that person is one less person that a bad guy can call. So critical. We had flood mitigation spending in West Melbourne that a state rep threatened to have vetoed because he didn't like somebody participating in a fundraiser. So I'm going to create that phone. I'm going to put the link in the phone bank in here. And moving forward, when you've got issues and you don't know how to create those phone banks or those door-to-door conversations, which are the most critical thing we do, I know that the caucus has statewide the statewide caucus has van access for your counties, and I'm here to support you in any way that I can. So let me get that phone bank and put it in here. And I'm going to turn it back to Chair Freeberg while I do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So what I'm going to do very quickly then is go through the things that we need help with and hope that you all will help us. So, and here's an example of why we need this help. Just to put on this webinar, we have Kim Heiss has done so much of the PR on the event, has done the work to run this, and this is the 3rd or 4th time that we've messed around with StreamYard, which is the program we're using, because we think it's a better program. So, and we need help doing this kind of thing. So for the, let's see here. Or she needs help with all the communications activities that she's doing. We also need help with Liz Karshner Sloan. She's growing her data committee. We need to learn the ropes on Vote Builder, keep our data up to date and available, and help our chapters develop scripts and turfs to get out the vote. She needs help. Join her. Dan Lip is an individual who's helping us with, who's the chair of our political policy committee. He needs help also developing and disseminating resources on good environmental policies, putting on events like webinars, forums, and town halls. We also need help growing our environmental justice coalition. That is a huge, huge, very important issue for us because in the neighborhoods that have been slammed with with pollution and terrible flooding, these are the people that no longer believe in government. We need to bring them back to Democrats, voting for Democrats who are going to come through for these committees. Join that coalition if you want to help. And we're starting a new committee with Tiffany Grantham is starting our member and volunteer recruitment efforts. She needs help to get that set up and running. You know, our goal is to bring back our caucus, working with the FDP and with all of our Democratic organizations, recruiting candidates so that we can ensure no Republican runs unopposed, even in the reddest of areas. You know, we all desperately want the same thing, to take back Florida, restore our democracy and our environment. But to do that, we need to be like Minneapolis citizens. Work together, fight for what we believe in. Knock on doors, do phone banking, do whatever it is that you enjoy doing, like to do, or have skills. So please help us by joining our state caucus. It's $10 a year and your local chapter as well. If you don't have a local chapter, we're going to work with you if you want us to develop a presence in your county so we can do the work. And I know this has been a bit long and a bit wordy, but I hope it's been worth it for you. Thank you so much for your attention. And now I believe, Kim, did you put in the chat? Some of you are going to be able to join your chapter virtually. Look in the chat. Here we go. Look here. You can join it virtually by Charlotte County, Pasco County, Pinellas, Broward, and Martin. So join virtually at those links. I'm going to keep that on for a little while. I know it's been a bit long. I so much thank you for your attention and participation and for all of our speakers today. And I hope to see you soon. Hey, Judy. Yeah. I think we have food here. We expect people to eat it. I'm the Jewish mother here. And just socialize a little bit. We have candidates. The candidates stand up and after eating and drinking a little what we call schmoozing,